As we continue with the reaction to President Cyril Ramaphosa's speech last night, I'm now joined on the line by Economic Freedom Fighter spokesperson Vuyani Pambo. Vuyani, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. Give us your immediate reaction to the President's announcement last night.
Well, thank you very much for having us on your show. Well, we welcome the move by the President to say that we must move to level 3, lockdown regulations. It's long overdue, we must say. It should have happened in the beginning of the month, which by now we should be opening up the country. And what we've experienced 2 days ago of us reaching the 1 million mark of happened. We are where we are because there is a delayed reaction. There is a delayed planning. The government of the day is not proactive, is unimaginative. And we are where we are because the government has failed to use the lockdown. The past 9 months, the government has failed to build a hospital, has failed to make sure that each and every hospital that we have has ventilators, has oxygen tanks, and also that, it uses the past 9 months to build hospitals. This is an opportunity that has been lost. A lockdown is useless if you do not make sure that you cushion the infections. There is absolutely no reason why we are where we are after we've had, 9 months of a lockdown. So this government has failed and must take responsibility. We also know that, he displayed a feeling of having crocodile tears waiting to burst out of his face. We don't take that seriously. That guy must take the country seriously. It's very important that a president is almost all the time is rational. Make sure that he uses scientific evidence. He, beginning of the year, told us just before we went into the first lockdown that 85% of South Africans, or rather people in South Africa, were going to be infected by this coronavirus pandemic. And with that information, necessary steps were supposed to be taken, like making sure that our hospitals are functioning properly so that they're able to cushion these infections when they happen in such a time. So as the EFF, we welcome the level 3 lockdown regulations. We hope that our people will try by all means to exercise social distancing. We know it's difficult because, our people are landless. We live in squalor. And, social distancing becomes extremely difficult. But our people must try by all means to practice social distancing, to practice hygiene, and to wear masks at all material times. And so from that point of view, we would urge the public to comply and let's save lives. But we also urge that this government speeds up and make sure that our hospitals are functioning, that our hospitals operate 24 hours and our clinics are operating 24 hours. The only way we are going to win this is with a government that makes sure that it takes care of life and does not lose money into politicians' pockets, but to buying ventilators. We still don't know where the 20,000 ventilators that were there, said to be purchased. But also we call on the public and all the EFF members to make sure that they clamp down, they close down any shipping, any tavern, any outlet that tries to sell alcohol illegally at this time. The public must join in. We must defend ourselves. This government has failed to defend us, and we must enforce the regulations ourselves. It's time that we realize that we are on our own, and we must do it on our own and make sure that we close down each and every tavern that dares to sell alcohol, each and every outlet that dares to sell alcohol during this pandemic. Until the 14 days has elapsed, there must be no movement of alcohol, not to the mouth, not to the hand, not outside of any house. We must close every single tavern, every single outlet that dares to sell alcohol during this pandemic. So we call on the public, but importantly, we call on all the ground forces of the EFF to close down any movement of alcohol.
Vuyani, you also mentioned here, as I take a closer look at your statement, we heard President Cyril Ramaphosa speaking about the lighting of candles in remembrance for all those who have passed on as a result of COVID-19. You saying here that it should be voluntary. Talk us through your chain of thought as you drafted that.
Well, it should be voluntary. It's not something that's mandatory. It's a symbolic act which each and every South African can do. Much as our people are going to be, doing their fireworks. people must not be stopped from doing their fireworks. They can do their fireworks in the comfort of their homes. So it's a voluntary act to light up candles, but also people who want to do their fireworks on New Year's Eve must not be stopped from doing it. So it's not an either or. That's basically what we're saying. We're saying that the president will be lighting up a candle on the New Year's Eve, and now people must equally be allowed to do fireworks on New Year's Eve. It's not a contradiction or it's not an insensitive thing to do as long as they do it in the comfort of their homes.
The National Coronavirus Command Council will be briefing the media this morning and, of course, giving more detail following the announcement by the president. As you listened very attentively to what the president had to say, what do you believe are some of the loopholes that certainly could do with a bit more clarity?
Well, I mean, the most important thing is that the Coronavirus Council must make sure that, it essentially puts out a plan as to how it's going to, enforce, these regulations, because the major problem here, other than, infection, is that enforcement is obviously lacking. The government is not coming to the party, and now people are continuously, flouting the regulations precisely because there isn't a detailed plan to enforce these, or rather there isn't a manifestation of implementation. So in as much as we say that we are going to, enforce the regulations, the government may be saying that, but there isn't a clear sort of plan of deployment of law enforcement agents to make sure that there is no, flouting of regulation. So the past few, weeks, we've seen parties going on everywhere, even illegal parties, precisely because the government has been unable to enforce, the regulations. And as a result, people get emboldened to continue having, these super spreader, events. So the major thing now is for the government to make sure they enforce it, but equally use this time to make sure it builds a health system that can cushion these infections. And these infections are inevitable, but they can be slowed down, and they can also make sure that by the time we go back, by the time the economy, the regulations are dropped again, we are able to, cushion the infections as they will rise again. And this opportunity must not be lost again.
And very lastly, we heard the president saying that those who fail to wear masks will be jailed or also face a fine or even both. Do you believe that this will be effective?
Well, to think about it, it's quite scary, to give a threat and say that those who do not wear masks will be jailed. We know that our prison system is equally not functioning properly. It's overcrowded. So you don't want to overly populate, these prisons, our prisons once more with, people not wearing masks. We need to get our people outside of an ultimatum, outside of a threat to wear masks. They must know that wearing of masks is not a favor to anyone but to themselves and to their loved ones. It's not a good thing for a president to almost all the time give an ultimatum and give a threat. The president knows very well that the very prisons that he wants to send our people who are avoiding wearing masks is to send them directly to a coronavirus den, which itself has been, spotted as one of the places where coronavirus is rife. Prisoners continuously call us to say that there are challenges of coronavirus in those prison cells. So to say to people, if you don't wear a mask, we're going to send you directly to jail, is going to be equally not solving the problem. So we need a bit of more imagination, which is obviously lacking at that level. We do think that the president, does not have that thing that moves people to doing the right thing. And so, we have to urge our people to wear masks. And the option of, or rather the ultimatum of saying that if you don't wear a mask, you go to jail, is not necessarily a good thing. It's not a smart thing. But of course, if you don't have the power and the leadership to move people to wearing masks, I suppose you fall into default like threatening people with prison.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time and weighing in. The EFF welcoming the stricter measures to contain the rapid spread of coronavirus as announced by the president.